All right, today we're diving into something that's affecting millions of women over 50, the retirement squeeze. There's some brand new survey data out that paints a pretty startling picture of financial anxiety, and we're going to break down what's really going on.
So let me just start by asking you this directly. Let's say you got hit with a surprise $400 bill tomorrow. The car breaks down, an unexpected trip to the doctor. Could you pay for it without whipping out a credit card or dipping into your retirement funds?
Well, for a huge number of women in America, that's not some hypothetical question. A new AARP survey just found that more than 40% of women over 50 said no, they couldn't handle that kind of emergency. That's a staggering number. Nearly half a generation living right on that financial edge. To really get our heads around just how big this problem is, we've got to look at the data. The AARP's She's the Difference survey tells a really powerful story about the kind of financial stress older women are dealing with every day. You can almost feel the uncertainty about the future in these numbers. A jaw-dropping 2/3 of women between 50 and 64 are not confident that their savings will actually last them through retirement. I mean, just imagine that. You work your whole life, and as you get closer to your golden years, you're just clouded by all this financial doubt. And that anxiety is sharpest for the women who are right on the verge of retiring. While it's still high for women over 65, about half of them feel uncertain, that number jumps all the way up to 66% for those in their last few years of work. It's like the closer they get to the finish line, the scarier it looks.
So what's the safety net? What's the backup plan? Well, for almost 30% of these women, Social Security is it. That's the whole plan. They're expecting it to be their only source of income, putting all their faith in just one system. And this quote here from Nancy Lamond at AARP really nails it. This isn't just some private thing people worry about alone. It's a kitchen table issue. It's the kind of worry that absolutely has public consequences, shaping how people feel about the economy and, yeah, even how they vote. Now, this financial strain isn't just happening in a bubble. It's getting cranked up to 11 by two massive pressures that, let's be honest, often fall harder on women: the insane cost of healthcare and the unpaid work of being a caregiver. So first, let's talk healthcare. Fewer than half of women in their 50s and early 60s feel like they can actually afford their medical costs. And this isn't just a feeling. It leads to truly impossible choices. Nearly 4 out of 10 have actually skipped going to the doctor or getting care they needed simply because of the cost. And then you have the second major burden: caregiving. The data here shows a pretty stark difference. Women are way more likely than men to be the ones providing unpaid care for adult relatives. And that often means putting their own financial health on the back burner to help everyone else. And it's not just about the time and energy involved. This caregiving role comes with a real price tag. On top of everything else, almost 40% of these women are also giving financial help to their adult kids. Every dollar that goes to help the family is a dollar that can't be put away for their own increasingly shaky retirement. So with all these pressures piling on, it's pretty clear that the old school way of saving for retirement just isn't cutting it for a lot of people. So what do you do? Where do you turn for some relief? Well, this leads us to a really interesting market trend that is directly connected to this whole crisis. When you're faced with this kind of reality, you start looking around at your options. And for many older women, they're looking at the single biggest asset they own, their house. And they're starting to ask, how can this help me right now? And this is where a financial tool called a HECM, which you probably know as a reverse mortgage, comes into the picture. Basically, it's a special type of loan that lets you turn some of your home's equity into cash without having to sell the house or move out. So who's actually using these things? Well, the data from the Federal Housing Administration is crystal clear: single women. By a long shot. They are the biggest single group of people getting reverse mortgages, making up more than 41% of the entire market. This is a direct market response to all those financial pressures we've been talking about. And it's not just who's doing it, but when. The average age for a reverse mortgage borrower has actually ticked up a bit to about 75 years old. That suggests that for a lot of people, the financial squeeze gets the tightest well after they've already retired. Now, this trend of single women using reverse mortgages is a really big deal, but it's also happening inside a market that's, well, it's shifting. So to get the whole story, we really need to zoom out and look at what's going on with the reverse mortgage industry overall. And here's the twist. Even with this obvious need for financial relief,
the total number of reverse mortgages has actually been cut in half in just a few years. It's plummeted. So what gives? Why is the market shrinking when it feels like demand should be through the roof? Well, the FHA points to two big economic reasons. First, higher interest rates. That just makes these loans more expensive, plain and simple. And second, home prices aren't shooting up like they were a few years ago. That more stable growth means there's less equity for people to tap into. So the overall economic climate has just cooled the whole market down. Okay, so let's just pull this all together. We started with this deep financial anxiety that's a huge issue for women over 50. That feeling is being made so much worse by the twin burdens of healthcare costs and caregiving. That's pushing many to look to their home for cash, making single women the #1 users of reverse mortgages. And all of this is happening while the wider market for those loans is actually shrinking because of bigger economic forces. Which leaves us with a pretty provocative question at the end of the day, doesn't it? For a whole generation of women who are caught in this retirement squeeze, is turning your house into cash just the new reality of what it takes to be financially secure? It's a question that really challenges our old ideas of what retirement and maybe even the American dream is all about.